Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dallas Daily Show, coming at you here from the Neighborhood Loan Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. Today is our Midweek MindSHIFT episode, and we're going to talk Future You, Part 1. All right, everybody. So this is the second opportunity we have had to do a midweek MindSHIFT episode. We introduced this idea last week. Typically, this show runs about 7 to 8 minutes Monday through Friday. What we're going to start doing and what we've seen is we're going to start doing an expanded episode in the middle of the week. I kind of talked a little bit about this last week. The idea of an expanded episode that kind of give you that midweek, like boom. And last week we talked about the difference between a mindset, right, and a mind shift. And so that's why we call it the mind shift, is so much of our mindset has been set for us by our past programming. But if we want a mind shift, we're not going to get a new download from an old plan, from an old program. Instead, we have to begin to design a future version of us that we want to say hello to, that we want to become. This future version of us is someone that's like, yes, that's my champion. Yes, that's who I want to be ultimately in my life. And so for the next couple of midweek mind shift calls, we're actually going to talk about the 5 steps of how you actualize that future you. Last week, we talked about the 2 trajectories, right? A future you want to avoid and a future you want to become. Now, this is, you can find yourself in that same old belief behavior trigger cycle as we talked about, and as you've heard me say on the podcast in previous episodes as well, is these old triggers, these old beliefs, these old behaviors. These are things that were said to you as a kid. We've come up with a few of them over time, right? These were the things that the parents said, that the teachers said, that the pastors said, that the friends said, that the deep relationships in your world, it was the names they called you. It was the attitudes and the feelings and the thoughts that they gave you about things like money, right? Money doesn't grow on blank. Sales is hard, right? Leadership is tough. Your team never does what you want them to do. Those are all kind of like leadership scripts that we were handed. There's other scripts that we were handed too. We called it Murphy's Law, right? You're familiar with Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong, blank. Yeah, you just finished it, didn't you? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. That's Murphy's Law. But we were taught that, right? What might be some other ones? Oh my gosh, another day, another dollar. Same bleep, another day, right? Same blank, another day. That was one. Same old, same old. There's so many scripts that we have been handed, that we have rehearsed, that we have memorized, and now, unfortunately, we're living out. Raising teenagers is, right? Think, you go through in your mind, there's so many scripts that you and I have been given. And so when people talk about changing your mindset, what they're actually talking about is changing the way you think in your current perspective about a situation. And I would like to propose to you that's not enough, because you actually need a new download, a new operating system, complete overhaul, a full upgrade, if you will, that's actually going to change the way you operate in your present. So if you're not happy with your present results, you can't keep looking to the past anymore. We have to start looking to a future. And there's 5 steps to actualizing a future you. Number 1, I'm going to give them all to you right now, and then over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about each one of them. Number 1 is we're going to talk about how you visualize the future you. Number 2, emotionalize it. Number 3, you vocalize it. And there's kind of 2 parts to that, and we'll break them down for you. Until number 4, you take that visualize, emotionalize, vocalize until you internalize is number 4. And then the 5th step is you actualize it. It becomes reality in your present, future you in your present possibility. It's an amazing thing. I have been studying this for 3.5-ish years now, every day. I have an accountability partner. We hold each other accountable. We leave each other voice messages and video messages all the time. It's an app we use that it's kind of indirect communication, video style messaging. We use an app for that, and every day we're saying, here's my learning, here's who I'm becoming, here's the future version of me. And I'm telling you, the difference in my life in the last few years. You've heard my story. You've heard me talk about the fact that that I was stuck in depression. major depression, 95th percentile, severe anxiety disorder, 95th percentile. I was caught in some loops. I was caught in some beliefs and behaviors that were not only were they a loop, but they were a downward spiral. Downward spirals. And I was caught in them for years. I lost the better part of a decade of my life being in misery, not having sleepless nights, for a couple of years being on medication. I've been to the deep, dark place. I used to give tours. I used to be a tour guide in the deep, dark place. And I can tell you now that the version of me that sits here in front of you, the version that records the Dallas Daily podcast, I'm a different person. The old triggers, they don't trigger me like they used to. There's still a couple I'm dealing with. My wife joked, she said, boy, if you can solve these 3 areas of your life, Dallas, I think you're going to be just about darn perfect. And I go, well, then I'll have to leave, right? No. I'm going to get Taylor, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. I saw the look Taylor gave me off camera, like, don't you dare, your wife's awesome. I agree, she is. But I think so often what happens is we get stuck in the loops. And by the way, did you know that the average human has something like 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day? And over 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. Over 90%. And guess what? The vast majority of that 90% is negative thinking. So think about, there's this idea, there's this really great concept that says we have to think about our thinking. Because the moment we become aware that the majority of my thoughts are repetitive, wake up, brush teeth, go to potty, that's my dad voice, go to potty, get dressed, go to school, maybe get in workout, read a book, do the same tasks, right? Most of our life is automated activity. Most of our life is repetitive thinking. But because of the scripts we've been given, life is hard, life is tough. Oh, it's good right now. Oh, you'll never be everything you want to be. Why are you dreaming like that? Those are the scripts that we've been given over. It's just in our family, son, right? That's just your genetics coming out. You've been taught all of those scripts. And I would have you consider that most of them are false. And the first step in transitioning your life toward a mind shift and accomplishing something you've never accomplished before, I have accelerated in these last few months. And I've accelerated because for the years I've been working through some of the stuff, and I'm becoming more aware of the old scripts. I'm becoming more aware of the old beliefs, becoming more aware of the old triggers, the old behaviors, all the things that have kept me in the loop. And instead, what I started doing was, as my awareness grew, I began to think, I don't want some of those results anymore. Some of the things that I've been dealing with for years and years and years and years, I don't want them anymore. And if I don't want the present results that I'm getting, and here's the question for you, if you're unhappy with some of your present results, going back and doing past programming work isn't going to help you. Some people call it, they do a lot of inner child work. I think there's some benefit to it to an extent, inner child work. However, I think at some point it becomes a detriment if you get caught in the inner child work to the point where you never move into your future because you're always working on your past. So we need the mind shift. We need to actually start to go, how do I adopt the thinking of this person out here, the future me that I want to embrace? Because the present me is on a trajectory toward a reality that I want to avoid. So if there's an idealized version of me that I can realize now, boy, I'd much rather take that. This is kind of the subject of my book that's going to be coming out this year, Say Hello to Future You. And it's all about the 5 steps of Actualizing. So you're getting a little sneak peek here. Obviously, we can't go as deep as the book and as deep as the coaching program, but we can still jump into a little bit. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about step number 1 of this 5-step process, and that is the step called visualize. But first, hey everybody, I just want to give a quick shout out to our studio sponsor here at Neighborhood Loans Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're in the market for a new home, look no further. Their 5-star team is excellent. They can help you get what you need. And I can personally connect you with their team, or you can check out their website, neighborhoodloans.com. Again, that's neighborhoodloans.com, or feel free to call them 314-658-9400. Again, that's 314-658-9400. And even though the studio's located here in St. Louis, Missouri, they can service you nationwide. So trust me when I say you are in the best hands with Neighborhood Loans. All right, so we've seen that there's a necessity to get a new version of programming, and now we're going to talk about step 1 of the 5 steps. Again, all 5 steps are visualize. Number 2 is emotionalize. Number 3, vocalize. Number 4, you internalize. And number 5, you actualize it. So in order to become the future version of you, which is the most important part, because there's this idealized version of you out there, we have to start with step number 1, which is visualize. So what does that look like? Well, it's simply this. Have you created a compelling future, the picture of a compelling future? Have you created an image of who you want to be? See, there's this real big push in the last, decade and a half that, and I'm seeing it kind of goes through cycles and loops, but I'm seeing it creep back up of people, especially now as we're moving into the new year, of people wanting to talk about their vision board. And it's the lifestyle they want, and it's the dream house, and it's the car they want to drive, and they go and they clip out, they used to, probably now they just go to like a stock photo thing and pull the photos they want. But we used to get the magazines and we would clip out the images of the lifestyle images we wanted, of the food, the restaurants we wanted to eat at, of the pool we wanted in our backyard. And we would go and we'd do all this vision casting. And I think there's a lot of value to that. The idea is to create a picture of a compelling future. In our world, there's 4 areas that I want you to create that compelling future in, okay? So there's 4 parts of your life that are crucial to the visualization success here. And all 4 of them really quickly, and then we'll break them down. Number 1 is spiritual. Number 2, physical. Number 3, relational or emotional. And then number 4 is the professional. Some would call it financial, but those are the 4 areas: spiritual, physical, relational, professional. Say it with me: spiritual, physical, relational, professional. You can do it. Let's do it one more time together. Ready? Spiritual, physical, relational, professional. Taylor, do you want to do those with me? You ready? Here we go. Spiritual, physical, relational, professional. Boom. She's laughing. All right. Thank you for doing that with me. So those are the 4 areas of your life that we want to focus on. Let's define them really quickly for you, okay? Spiritual, what do I mean by that? Could it mean your religious part of your life? Absolutely, 100%. If you don't know who I am, I'm a Jesus guy. I love Jesus. I shun a little bit and I shirk a little bit at some of the choices of mainline Christianity as a practice, but I'm a Jesus guy through and through. Happy to talk with you about that on a separate thing, or we'll do a Bible study together, something like that. But that's not what I mean necessarily when I'm talking about spiritual. The definition of spiritual, here's the definition. Ready? It is the balance of your internal world and your external world. So how many times in your life have you just felt drained? How many times in your life have you felt overwhelmed? How many times in your life have you poured out and poured out and poured out and you just feel empty, right? If ever your internal world gets too empty and the barometric pressure from the external world gets too much, you begin to collapse in on yourself. So what we have to do is we have to have the right amount of fulfillment on the inside. And I'm going to break this word down for you, right? Fulfillment, meaning you are full and filled. Your internal world is full and filled. See, too many of us, we pour out and we pour out and we pour out to others because we're taught, because one of the scripts we were taught is you have to give to others. Right? Give and you shall receive, right? In a business networking group, it's givers gain, right? Give more than you want to receive, and then you'll receive more than you ever thought you could give. That's kind of the thinking there. But what most people do is they begin to pour out and pour out and pour out from until they are empty, and they still think they have to pour out. And then that's when they experience burnout. So if you pour out and pour out and pour out until you're empty, then you will burn out. That's the idea there. So having a healthy spiritual life is actually filling up that internal part of you so that you are not selfless with your time, selfless with your energy, because break down that word. Selfless, reverse it, less of self. There's actually less of you to pour out if you're not full and filled. So when you create the image of what you want the future version of you to look like, spiritually, what I'm talking about is that you have enough time in your world that you are getting full and filled so that you can pour out to others. This is self-help for helping others, okay? That's what this basically is. I need you to be full and filled so that there is enough of you to give to other people. So it's okay to be selfish because that brings you fulfillment. So where do you get your fulfillment? Is it prayer? Is it meditation? Is it going and hearing great live music? Is it just quiet time in nature? There are things you know that when you're burned out, you're like, oh, I just need to get some quiet time. And it's not napping and it's not binging a TV show. That's not what fulfillment is. It's where do you go to refuel your soul? That's the question. Where do you go to refuel your soul? So I want you to think about when you look at future you a year from now, 3 years, 5 years from now, what do you want your balanced life to be like, your internal, external world? Do you want to be helping people? Great. Then do you have a really clear picture of how you're going to be fulfilled? So that's number one, okay? The spiritual side. The second is the physical side. How do you refuel your soul, but also how do you refuel your body? What does your life look like physically when it comes to kind of three areas, okay? I know I'm giving you subpoints of a subpoint. Bear with me, okay? We're on point number 2, physical. So number 1 was spiritual. Number 2 is physical. And here in physical, there's 3 ways, kind of ABC, of what you need to be looking at. Number 1, you need to actually be looking at how are you fueling your body with food? Are you eating the right things that are helping your mind grow and stay sharp, helping your muscles stay sharp, keeping your inflammation down? Are we eating the right kind of foods? See, I fueled myself wrong for a lot of years, and I've had to work on retool and the refuel of what that looks like. Losing weight on that journey right now. Come back to this show in a couple months. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at his face. It's so much smaller. That head is not nearly as large. But physically, how do I refuel myself when it comes to actual food? Am I eating nutritious foods that fuel my life? Also, am I getting the right level of exercise? Am I moving my body intentionally? And the third one is, not a lot of people think about this, mobility. Now, in practices like CrossFit, they talk about the 10 elements of functional fitness. I'm just talking about these 3. The nutrition you consume, the exercise you give your body, and the mobility for longevity. And my wife practices yoga, and she's always on me like, you need more shoulder mobility. I know. I'm very aware, honey. I'm going to work on it for you. But that's kind of the physical. So number 1, what do you want your spiritual life to look like in 3, 5, 10 years from now? Number 2, what do you want your physical life? I know that part of my visual is that I want to be the grandpa who is playing on the floor with his grandkids and wrestling around with them. And I want to I want to be able to dance with my granddaughter. I don't even have one yet. But if she has a wedding, grandpa wants to be able to dance with her. I want to be that guy. Or we can be the person who's on the trajectory of like, oh, I'm healthy, I'm sick, I'm on all the medications, right? You have your choice. So number 1, spiritual. Number 2, physical. Number 3, relational. What do you want your relationships to look like in the next 3, 5, 10 years? Do you want them to be broken, or do you want them to be fulfilling? Do you want them to be exhausting, or do you want them to be rewarding? What does it look like for you, both in the deep inner circle of your core people and your social and all of that, right? And then number 4, the financial or the professional, is what do you want your world to look like financially? Do you want to be still in debt, or do you want to be paid off, thriving, and investing? Do you want to be still working for the same company? Maybe you do. Maybe you're like, no, I love my job and I want to be excelling in it. Or maybe you're like, I want to start my own business. I want to start my own company. I don't know what it looks like for you. But those are the 4 areas you have to think of: spiritual, physical, relational, professional. Taylor, one more time with me. Spiritual, physical, relational, professional. One more. Spiritual, physical, relational, professional. So here's what we got for you, okay, everybody? Typically, we would do a positive play call. Here on the Mind Shift, I'm actually going to challenge you to do something. I'm going to challenge you to do the exercise with me. At our website, dallasdailyshow.com, I'm going to create another resource and have it available for you. It's actually going to be the 4-area visualize chart. And it's going to, the instructions are going to simply be this. You're going to set a timer for 3 minutes. That's all you get, 3 minutes, because you could go on and write paragraphs. This is a one sheet. You're going to download it. You're going to print it up. And in 3 minutes time, you're going to create the visual picture of what it looks like, the visualize of your idealized self in the next 3, 5, 10 years from now in those 4 quadrants, those 4 areas. That's what I want you to think of. That's going to be your homework for the day. That's pretty much it. That's step number 1 of actualizing the future you, of having the mind shift, because what we'll learn in the next mind shift episode is we're going to learn how to emotionalize that in a way that it's so compelling that we're drawn to it. We're aspiring to become it. So that's what I got for you in today's mind shift call. Before I let you go, I'm going to pray for your 4 eyes. I'm going to pray that you would increase first in your insights. That is the revelation of what you're getting today and learning today. Number 2, that you would increase in your imagination of who you are and what's possible for you. Number 3, I pray that you increase in your intention. That is your will plus your action combined together. And number 4, I pray that you increase in your impact, the positive impact you're having in the world and the lives of others around you. May you increase in all 4 of those eyes, my friend. Go to the website, support our sponsors, support Neighborhood Loans, support the Shed Fat Fast Joel Staley Fitness Program. Thank you for joining me for the Midweek Mind Shift. Tomorrow we'll be back with a regularly scheduled Dallas Daily Show. But in the meantime, my friends, go out there, have a championship day.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more tools, go to dallasdailyshow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.